Hello everyone, today we have new video review and this time we are going to talk about Swiss watch. I have it here on the table, you can barely see it but I will lift it. So it's a diver watch from Mido, so-called Ocean Star 200, and we have here a quite special version. As you can see, it comes in a green color, so it might be a really interesting release for those who are searching for a green diver obviously, and quite unusual color combination, so that's why I decided to take a closer look. And as usual, I suggest we start with unboxing and then we'll move to the story of this watch. So as you've seen, this watch comes in a quite nice boxing. I would say this is a really generous packaging for this price tag, but then from the other side, that's something what you expect from the Swiss brand, right? And Mido is actually the Swiss watchmaker, and we have here, I would say, somewhat classic diver watch with all the typical features of such watch. We have a really nice bezel, we have applied indices, we have crown guard, we have also a quite durable case with a nice water protection, which we will talk about later. So all this comes for a reasonable price tag, and that's why I decided to take a closer look. And what was also attractive to me was this dial. So as you can see, it's a dial with a wave pattern on it, and we have also this nice applied indices on it, so it creates really interesting composition in person. So that's why I suggest we start with a dial and then gradually we move on to other components of this watch. So the dial, I would say here it's the main selling point of this watch, and I would say that you have to see it in person. So the watch size is 42.5 millimeters. It's a reasonable sized watch for average sized men's wrist, and you can see that dial takes almost whole space of this casing, so there is nothing extra, and that's really beautiful. As I said before, this is a classic diver's design, so here you won't find anything really unusual for this genre of watch. First of all, again, I will mention the dial backing. So here it comes in a matte green color, and this matte surface actually adds to the overall perception of this dial, because if it would be, for example, sunray, it would be completely different effect from such pattern. And as you can see, we have actually wave pattern here. It's not emphasized with the color, it's only engraved on the dial, so that's the beauty of it, because it's not that prominent on the first side. And as I said before, we have also applied indices here. Obviously they're covered with luminescent layers, so they are visible in the dark. And the same applies to the hands. As for the hands, by the way, I was quite surprised to see that they're not that huge. It adds to the elegance of this watch, because it's not a tool watch in its full sense. We actually have really nice slim hour and minute hand, and as you can see, the second hand has the circle insert on the tip. I'm glad to see that the writings here are also made with a taste, let's say. So we have the Mido as a chromed plated writing, but all other writings are finished with a white font, and it's also a matte font, so it doesn't jump out from the dial and from the backing of the dial. And what is also nice, you can see we have quite large the day and date indicator, And usually I'm not such a huge fan of the white colored day and date indicator, but here we have quite, I would say, different approach to this element, because it's not that deep in the dial. So as you can see, it sits almost flush with the back layer of the dial, and that creates really interesting combo together with this matte surface finish of the dial, and that's why I would say that's something what I can live with, and it looks good in person, it's easy to read, and it's finished in a typical or a standard Mido font, so it looks just right in place here. Whole dial is covered with sapphire glass. That's also something what you will expect for this price tag, because otherwise it will be easy to damage this watch. And note that this sapphire glass, it's not raised over the bezel, so it sits flush, and that's also another nice touch of this watch, because all the elements are somehow aligned perfectly. There are no visible gaps or, let's say, steps between the elements, and it just goes smoothly from one surface to another, and that actually adds to the overall luxurious feel of this watch. Now we can talk about the casing here. So as I said before, it's 43mm sized watch, and the case thickness is 12.3mm, so it's not that thick watch as you can see, and that's why it sits nicely on your wrist. And I would say the overall case shape is standard for the diver watch, for the classic diver style, so there is nothing different in here. And you can notice that the bracelet is integrated, we will talk about it later. What is more interesting is that we have a really small amount of polished surfaces here, and that's something what I really appreciate, because I'm not used to see polished surfaces in two watches, and I'm really glad when we get the brushed surface instead of mirror-like surfaces. Another cool thing here is the large bezel. As you can see, we have really huge digits on it, so it will be easy to read if you'll be actually using it for diving. And even for the desk diving it should be fine. We also have the crown protection, which is quite prominent here. You can see that it almost completely encloses the crown, and therefore it will be really difficult to get the crown or to break it. And the crown itself is also relatively large, so with my fingers I didn't have any issue to unscrew it. And by the way, we have the screwable crown here, and of course we have several positions for this crown. We have also Mido logo on the top of the crown, and the case back cover, by the way, we have here the engraving of the sea star or ocean star, so that's something what you appreciate. Obviously there is no clear insert here, because this watch is touted as a diver's watch for a proper diving experience, not something to treat as an exhibit watch. And by the way, I was mentioning the bezel, and I think you should be able to hear the clicking of this bezel, so just give me a second. As you can see, it's quite nice sound, it doesn't sound cheap, and the overall feel of this part is also good. It does not have the free movement, it just sits tight in place. It works in the right direction, obviously counterclockwise or anti-clockwise if you prefer. And also we have here ceramic insert, which also adds to the beauty of this watch, and it's finished in green color. And you can notice that actually even in this video, in the official video, it's really difficult to catch the shade of this color, because it's dark green and you have to set up the lighting properly in order to catch the shade of this green. That's why maybe I would recommend to check it in person, so that you can appreciate the combination, how it works together with the dial green color. Watch weight is 187 grams, so it's quite hefty piece, and that's why I would say try it in person first before buying, especially if you are not sure about heavy watches on your wrist, then definitely check it out first. And also the water protection here is 200 meters, so as I said before, it's more or less suitable for recreational diving. Obviously you will not go to any serious depth, but it should be fine for a quick dive up to 10 meters with oxygen. As I said before, we have integrated bracelet here, and I would say it works nicely with the case design, so that's not something I would change. We have also polished inserts here, so that's something I'm not a huge fan of. and you'll have to be careful in order not to damage them, and obviously this is nearly impossible with the bracelet, so be ready for this and brace yourself if you are not a huge fan of scratches on the polished surfaces just like I am. There are no additional straps in the original casing and original packaging, so if you would like to get this watch on, for example, NATO strap, you'll have to get it separately. And what is actually cool about this strap or about this bracelet, that we have the quick adjustment mechanism, so you can avoid using the pins and also screwdrivers. You just press this insert, and as you can see, it extends on the necessary length, and that's really cool thing because it might be handy, especially if you will be using it for professional diving or for recreational diving, where you don't have to carry, or you usually do not carry, special tools. You just need to enhance it in order to put it over your swimsuit, and that's where you just press these pins and you'll be good to go. By the way, if you flip it over, there will be a Mido logo here, so as you can see, it's also brushed metal finish. We have also polished edges, so overall the accessory itself looks good, but in my opinion it's not suitable for a heavy use underwater, especially if you'll be using it on your diver suit. You might notice on the previous close-ups that here we have written on the dial Ocean Star caliber 80, and this number 80 sounds familiar, right? So this actually is the same as the Powermatic 80, so basically we have 80 hours power reserve, and I would say this is really impressive because it gives you enough of power reserve for everyday use, and you don't have to worry that it will actually stop during everyday use. And that's actually the beauty of the Powermatic 80 movement. I think it's a perfect choice, especially if you have one watch collection and you would like to have it every day on your wrist and avoid this unpleasant experience when you leave it aside and it just stops. But also it ensures that we have this smooth movement of the seconds hand. Obviously we have all the hour, minute, seconds indication. We have, as you remember, the day and date indicator, and the only thing which might be not that pleasant for some future users is that we have the stainless steel caseback, so you won't be able to appreciate the beauty of this move. And now I think it's the time to move and talk about the in-use experience. So, in-use experience can be started with the dial, because dial here is easily legible. There is no issue with this styling, there is no issue that we have a matte surface or this wave pattern on it. So it's really great design which looks even better in real life, so That's why I was recommending to check it in person. You'll be surprised with the quality of this dial. It is also great to see applied indices here. All these round inserts, they look great and they are also easy to find on this dial. 43mm is also not a huge size. You can see on the videos that it sits nicely on my wrist, and I think it will be fine on yours as well, but of course you're always welcome to try it. And as for the overall fitment, you can see that we have slightly bent plugs, so I guess that's what also contributes to the ease of use, and of course the metal bracelet with this micro adjustment, because it helps you to get the right fitment and doesn't press on your wrist. What is also great is the overall lack of the polished surfaces on the case. It is reduced to the possible minimum by Mido, and I truly appreciate it, because such watch should be coming with the brushed metal surface, not with the polished mirror-like surface, and in my opinion this one actually nailed the overall design. Of course the ceramic insert looks just right in place, especially for this price tag, and as I said, this build quality here, for example the bezel, the crown, everything feels high quality, and maybe the heavyweight also contributes to it. What I am also not that big fan of is the polished metal bracelet, because I'm not sure why it was decided to do such element here. Yes, it looks nice, but it's not that great choice for the diving, even though we can change it. So 22mm width of the lugs, so I guess it will be easy to find a replacement, be it rubber one or maybe even the NATO strap in case you are wearing it for the desk diving. And now here we can move on to the price. So you can get this watch in Helvetii webshop, and the price tag will be 1000 euros. In my opinion, it's more or less reasonable price tag considering what you get for this price, because you get a really high-end build quality, you get a nice unusual dial here, you get a modern movement inside, you also get an adjustable strap, and you get the premium packaging if it matters for you. But obviously for me it's more important that the dial looks fresh and different from what we are used to see on the market. But at the same time, I think this watch can get something extra. Maybe it would be good to see the Cyclops over the day and date indicator. Maybe it would add to the overall perception of this watch. Maybe it would be great to get slightly bigger indices, then this space would look a bit more occupied. But again, it's a matter of personal taste, and maybe you will like better, especially if you try it in person. So as I said, this watch is already available and you can get it immediately on Helvetii webshop. Of course, I will be happy to hear your opinion about this release. Do not forget to write it here in the comment section below. And if you like this video, press the like button, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and I will see you in the next video review as usual. Thank you for joining me today, and bye.